everyone. Welcome to World Education Week. We are so proud and happy to be here with you. We are Colegio Valle de Filadelfia, and today we're going to be talking about tackling the global education crisis and from a whole school approach. But first, I would like to, of course, thank Vika Spota and all the great staff at T4 Education for organizing this spectacular week of events. Just imagine 100 schools worldwide presenting, sharing, learning. I cannot think of a better way to celebrate World Teachers Day. And of course, congratulations to all the teachers that are with us today. Now, before we start, I would like to share some administrative or logistic stuff with you. So let me just share my desktop. So here, this is our theme. This is what we're going to be talking about. We are Colegio Valle de Filadelfia in Mexico. And we want to welcome you, and we want to remind you that this conversation is going to be in English. We are going to be sharing, speaking in English, but there is going to be simultaneous translation with subtitles. So you can listen to the lecture, to the panel in English. But if you wish, you can activate your subtitles to have access to the translation. For this session, we have subtitles in Arabic, Chinese, French, and Spanish. And if you forgive me, because I'm sure that we have a large audience of Spanish-speaking people, I am going to repeat just what I said in Spanish, just for this moment, very brief, so our Spanish-speaking people know how to do this. Hola, muy bienvenidos. Estaremos realizando este evento en inglés, pero pueden ustedes activar. Tenemos la opción de que puedan activar ustedes sus subtítulos. Van a encontrar por ahí un lugar donde dice subtítulos, activar subtítulos, y ustedes pueden elegir la lengua, el idioma en el que quieren los subtítulos. Por supuesto, pueden elegir español. So that's it. I hope that you found the way to put your subtitles, and it's so that way you can be with us the whole time without interruptions and without concerns about language. And well, during this hour that we will be sharing, we will like to encourage you to share on social media whatever you want, if you take pictures of what we're doing, if you could use please these hashtags and tag us so we will know and we can repost, reshare what you are sharing. So we will be very grateful if you help us spread the word about this event. Okay. So before we start, let me go back here and tell you a little bit about who we are. We are a school in Mexico. We are going to be presenting a panel. So we are going to have several people come and just talk about our subject, the theme that we are going to be tackling today. My name is Elisa Guerra. I am the founder of Colegio Valle de Filadelfia, and I am also a teacher there. I teach creative writing for grades 4 to 9th with a creative writing podcast that maybe we will have time to talk a little bit about. If not, it will be another time. But we're going to have people sharing with us. We're going to have a parent. We're going to have our principal. We're going to have a teacher, and we're going to have a former student, an alumni. But first, I would like to tell you a little bit about what is the learning crisis. What do we mean with learning crisis? So there is, according to the World Bank, UNESCO, the World Economic Forum, and other institutions, there is a global learning crisis. And with global, of course, will mean worldwide. Now, it's been a long time since the education quality, of course, has to be improved. But in 2019, the World Bank published a report addressing directly these global learning crisis. So what is it? What is the world learning crisis? Well, The World Learning Crisis, I am going to give you some data. 617 million children and teenagers lack basic skills in reading, in math, right now at this particular time in the world. And 2/3 of that, of those kids are currently in school. So these are kids that are in school, that are studying in schools, but they are not achieving what they need to achieve. They are not achieving not even the basic skills in reading and math. Now, we are going to be focusing on reading because, of course, it's too broad, the subject, and we need to choose just one point where we can start. So we will be sharing what are we doing in our school regards to the learning crisis and specifically regarding to reading. Now, according to the same World Bank in this publication from 2019, in this report, 53% of children, 10-year-old children worldwide, lack basic reading skills. So it's a huge number. And if you think about our region, we are in Latin America, of course, but if you take whole Latin America, and according to PISA, to the latest test that was administered in 2018, well, the results were published in December 2019, just before the pandemic hit. And maybe we got very distracted with the pandemic, of course, and we did not pay too much attention to that. But the results were not surprising, but were still very depressing and bad for Latin America. 50% of our 15-year-olds cannot read at grade level. 15%, so 1 in 2. This is huge, and of course this is unacceptable. And when we say what are basic reading skills, this phrase is taken from the World Bank, from some of their publications regarding the learning crisis. So we have here a sentence, and it reads, "The dog's name is Puppy." So 75% of children in some countries in Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, can't understand this sentence, this simple sentence. And this might not be, of course, the same sentence everywhere. And of course, reading comprehension is not something binary. It's not something that either you have it or you don't have it. You can understand maybe simple text, but as texts become more complex, when you begin to grow and you know, get to higher grades, the material gets more complicated, and then you cannot understand it. So we believe that our school systems around the world have been fair job on teaching kids to read, but they have failed in creating readers. Specifically speaking about Latin America, you see, we have decoders. We have children that can decode words, but either they do it very slowly, they lack fluency, which of course impacts comprehension, or once they decode the words, they don't know what the words mean. So what's the point? And I think that is the gist of the problem, at least in Latin America. Are there causes? So why is causing this? Of course, there are lots of factors. It's a multifactorial problem, and we could think about early exposure to language. We could think about the amount of books that kids have access to, both in home and schools and elsewhere. We can say that poverty, of course, it plays a factor because of lack of access. We can say also that nutrition, the violence, the toxic stress also can play a factor. But also there can be genetic predispositions, they can be differences in brain architecture and in brain function. And also the kind of teaching, when and where and how our kids are learning to read. So as I said, we cannot tackle everything in this hour, but we're going to try to go to a single way of doing this. I am not implying that ours is the only way to do this, or this is the only way to tackle the crisis, but we think that there is hope, and we want to share what we are doing. I am sure that in this week, you're going to be able to learn from lots of schools and things that they are doing. And I look forward to learning from other schools and learning what they are doing. But right now, we're going to share with you what we are doing. So who are we? Our school is named Colegio Valle de Filadelfia, and our main school is located in Aguascalientes, Mexico. Aguascalientes is the belly button of Mexico. It's just in the geographic center of our country. And this is where our main school is, but we also have schools in 7 different cities in Mexico. And we also have a school in Costa Rica. We have a school in Ecuador. And we have learning centers, early development centers in Bolivia and in Colombia. So we are in 5 different countries. But still, our schools are small schools. So, what is reading? Reading is being able to fluently recognize words and to be able to know what they mean. So you need to have these 2 factors. Of course, it's much complicated than that, but if we were to share a simple view of reading, you will need to be able to fluently decode or recognize words and also to be able to know their meaning. So I thought that I was sharing my screen, but apparently I am not. So let me try this again. I'm going to share my screen again because for some reason I think I stopped sharing. Okay. So hopefully you can see it now. So this is what we're just saying, being able to recognize or decode the words fluently and also able to know their meaning. Now, how do we do this? Well, there are lots of methodologies for teaching reading. What we do is that we start very early with explicit teaching of vocabulary. So we use reading cards. I will show them later, but we have here an image of them in the presentation. The words are presented to children with frequency, intensity, and duration from an early age, where we will talk about that a little bit later as well. And we do phonics. Yes, we do phonics, but we do phonics later on when the kids are 5. And we present these words because we want first to give kids a chance to increase their vocabulary. We have an enriched environment, an enriched curriculum as well. Here is me with a group of 4-year-olds presenting some of these words, and you can see that's the name. Those are names of the skeletal system. So we use vocabulary that is familiar to the child, but we also expand their vocabulary with new and sophisticated words. And of course, we had to teach them about the skeletal system as well. So we also enrich their curriculum with not only skeletal system and the science, of course, but we also with art and music and many other things that kids find very interesting and they joyfully learn. And we also pay very close attention to their motor development, because sometimes we think that reading is just intellectual, but there's a lot of motor, even if you are not even thinking of writing yet. There is a component of motor development, specifically in being able to use your 2 eyes to converge your vision to one point of close vision, near point vision, which is the kind of visual convergence that we need to be able to read or to do many other activities of a civilized society. So in order for this to happen, for these the 2 eyes to learn to work together, we do lots of crawling and creeping with our kids since they are in preschool and kindergarten. We won't have that much time to speak about motor development, but it's so important that I didn't want to skip it. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. And this was just to give you a very brief overview of what is the learning crisis, and why is reading so important, and what we are doing with specifically the reading, the approach to reading that we're doing. So right now, I would like to introduce our very first speaker for today, and she's our principal. Her name is Sonia Barkin, which is not only the principal of our school, she's a very dear friend. We have been together for many, many years now, almost since the school opened. I can't remember how long it was, and Sonia, don't you dare say anything, okay? But Sonia has been committed to her students' development for more than 25 years. Oh my gosh, now you know. As a teacher and a principal, she has a degree on preschool education and is aware of the importance on promoting meaningful and social-emotional learning through reading, art, music, and play. And she's also the mother of 3. So Sonia, welcome.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Well, as Elisa said, I'm Sonia Barkin. I'm from Mexico. I live in Aguascalientes. I have been working in Colegio Valle de Filadelfia since a couple years, and I'm very happy. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Sonia. So I have a few questions for you. Can you share with us when will be the ideal time to start a reading program?
Okay, well, I think in a school context, of course, the best is to start from 2 or 3 years old. But however, babies are exposed to language even before they are born, so reading could be stimulated since then.
Wonderful. And in the context of a school, is there any differences? Well, they are. Can you tell us what are the differences between the program when you do it in the preschool and kindergarten and with nursery school even? What is the difference from that program as when you present it in elementary school and beyond?
Well, the program for early childhood is focused on offering them words of everyday use. That is, that they are familiar with them, such as names, their family members, animals, household objects, and all those kinds of words. At elementary level, the complexity of the programs, obviously it increases. This gives students the opportunity to introduce and understand words that are not common. Even etymologies are shown here. And I know it sounds like a big challenge, but children are able to get all this information. And that's very interesting for us as teachers to see all this process.
Thank you, Sonia. Yes, exactly what you said is very important. With the little ones, we start with the vocabulary that's familiar with them. We also expand their vocabulary, but we teach them what those words means. And we do the same with the elementary students. We also present them is the same technique. By the way, I had a video that I was not able to show because in our testing, it was not being properly displayed, so we decided to skip with it. So I am going to show you how a reading session will be. So here I have 5 different words, and I hope that you can see them. And this will be a reading session for preschool kids, for example. So I have here 5 words, and all these words relate to places. They have to do with places. So we will say, hey, we have some words here. These are places. This is greenhouse, hospital, library, apartment, museum. Yay, wonderful. Now, if you could see, we do that very, very quickly and with lots of encouragement and a high. There's a lot of music in our voices. We are happy. We are relaxed. We are not asking the kids to repeat the words. We're just presenting the information. And we do this 3 times a day for a week, and then we change to different words. And we do this very, very, very early. We start when they get to school, which is in our case at age 2, in nursery school. We are not expecting, of course, the kids to repeat. We don't pressure them in any way. And we do teach phonics, but we teach phonics until later on, 5-year-olds. And by that time, most of the kids already know a lot of words, and some of them even got the feeling of phonics before actual teaching them phonics. So it's not, some people think, oh my gosh, you do that instead of phonics. No, we can do both. Actually, we do both. And with elementary students, because they already know how to read, we are not teaching them to read anymore. It's just for fluency and vocabulary, and also orthography. It's good for them to know how to write the words. But now I would like to talk to another of our guests, and we have a parent here. We have a parent, and he's been a parent in our school for a long time now. And his son, Pepe, is doing wonderfully in our school. So I would like to introduce you to Jose Luis Escobar, whom we also call Pepe. And let me tell you a little bit about Pepe. He is a computer system engineer and a tax informatics consultant. So 2 of the things that I will never be able to do. So his son is already 11, and he has been attending Colegio Valle de Filadelfia since he was 3. And he has given a priority to his role as a parent, and he has supported his son learning both in school and at home. So Pepe, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lisa. Thank you for inviting me.
We are so happy to have you. And we have a couple of questions for you too. Why did you decide to enroll your child at Valle de Filadelfia?
Well, I enrolled my son in Colegio Valle de Filadelfia because when I made the decision, I thought it was the best option for him in his education, and it was also the best option where he could develop and increase his potentials. Today, I still believe it. It was the best decision that I could make. What happened? I was 40 years old, and my wife 38 when my son was born. He was a premature child with only 3-4 weeks of gestation. He was a very desired child because we had been trying to have our son for 8 years. While we was waiting for his birth, we were concerned about his education, and we started looking for educational methods and schools. Then my wife saw on YouTube videos about the Doman method and the Philadelphia method. We watched a lot of videos on how to raise a baby. When he was 3 years old, Pepe, we started looking for a kindergarten and visited many schools in our city, but we did not agree with any of them. At that time, my wife showed me a video of a teacher who spoke about the Philadelphia method. That teacher was you, Mr. Isa. We wondered about that. We saw all these children reading at an incredibly young age with a lot of cultural knowledge, playing violins, painting oils, doing gymnastics, speaking in English and French. And wow, it was wonderful. There was everything we wanted for our son. Then I Googled this school and saw that there was a school in our city. But at that time, the school was located in an area with a high purchasing power. And when I saw all the wonders that were achieved in that school, I was afraid of not being able to afford it. One day when I was training in a pool with a friend, mm, she asked me which school I was choosing for my son, and I told her that I hadn't decided yet. And she asked me if the economic factor was not decisive, in which school you could enroll your son. I told her that there was a school called Colegio Valle de Filadelfia that we liked, but I told her about all the wonders we had seen. The next day, she told me she had talked with a friend who was teaching here, and that everything I had told her about education and this school was true, but that school was not that expensive that I thought. It was private school, but she encouraged me to ask, and I made an appointment. And what a great surprise that the person who interviewed us was the person who had inspired us to enroll our son there. My child is already in 6th grade, and we are convinced that is the best school we could have chosen.
Thank you so much, Pepe, for sharing that with us. It's very inspiring for us to listen to you, and also to I just want to be thankful, and I'm grateful that you have this trust in us to have given us the chance to work with you, with your family, with Pepe for so many years now. And yes, to put our audience in context, we are a small private school. Our families are mostly middle SES families, and it's not really expensive.
No, it's not expensive.
If anyone was wondering, the tuition is from about $130 to $170 per month per child. And it depends, of course, on the grade and everything. But I mean, I don't want to get derailed from where we're going. And thank you, Pepe, for sharing that with us. I would like to introduce you to another speaker, to another guest that we have. And of course, if you have questions for Sonia or for Pepe, you can write them down in the chat. And at the end of our session, we will dedicate some minutes to hopefully being able to answer a few of your questions. So right now, I am very excited to introduce you to our next guest.
Lo sento. ¿Están? Valeria. María. T-shirt. Fish.
Apple. Square. Flower. Cookie. Sun. Jacket. Banana. Umbrella. Egg.
Very good, Natalia. Excellent.
I had a video of a 2-year-old reading word cards in English, and it was my big surprise to present you with that video and then tell you, well, here it is. this little girl, Natalia. Some years have passed. Of course, you will see her. She's a beautiful teenager now. And she graduated from our school. Our school goes all the way to 9th grade only. So she's now a 10th grader in a very prestigious high school right now with a scholarship. But let me tell you a little bit more about Natalia. She's 15-year-old girl. She's a former student of our school. She began to learn to read at a very early age, and she has enjoyed academic success. And she's also an accomplished violinist and a TEDx speaker. And as I said, she currently is enrolled in a very prestigious high school with a generous scholarship. So, Natalia, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, thank you. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So you can see that Natalia is with her mom, and she will speak a little bit later, not as a mom, but as a teacher, because she's being a teacher in her school as well. But right now, Natalia, I have a few questions for you. I would like to ask you, do you remember being taught to read when you were that little? I mean, that video that we had, and of course we can share that video with the audience. I will tell you later how we can share with you the resources that we have been presenting to you. Do you remember being taught to read when you were little? What do you remember about learning to read?
Yes, well, I remember reading time being my favorite. Some people believe it's difficult, but for me, it wasn't difficult at all. I really enjoyed the reading sessions, and it was the opposite of boring. Also because the teachers did it in a joyful way. So it was like playtime for me and my classmates. And it was more interesting because every week the teacher had for us new categories. So we were always eager to see new words and to learn more.
Wonderful, Natalia. And as you can see, she's fluent in English. She's probably the best English speaker. She's even better than us teachers here. So we do the reading program in 3 different languages. In our school we do English, Spanish, and French. And there are other schools in our network that do Chinese, English, and Spanish. But Natalia, for a brief time, you moved to another city, so you had the experience of being in another school. I think it was for a year and a half or so before you came back. So I am curious, how was your experience in the other school that, as much as I believe, had more traditional methods? Was it difficult to you to adapt to a new school? What were the differences that you saw? Was there anything that you would like to say about that?
Yes, well, actually, we didn't have a reading program. We focused more on learning the letters of the alphabet and writing them down on the notebooks. And for sure, that was boring for me because I was already capable of reading long sentences. And I wanted more than just that. But I felt stuck in a way because I had to follow my classmates' reading process. So yeah, I didn't like it. And I couldn't understand why my classmates were reading syllabically. And now I realize that I was able to read fluently because previously I was taught how to read with whole words.
Now, this is something very interesting that you're saying, Natalia. And when we say whole words, there are people that believe that this program is the same as whole language program in the United States, which has been so controversial. And there are 2 main differences to whole language, at least. One is that with whole language, you are expected to guess the words from the context. So you read books, but you are not explicitly taught the words. Here, we do teach the words. We teach every word with intensity, frequency, and duration. As we said before, there is repetition of the words, but they're quick sessions and several times a day in a joyful and respectful manner. So we do teach the words, both in early grades, in kindergarten, nursery school, and also in elementary. We teach the words for fluency, for word recognition. And we are not in a battle with phonics. As I said, we do both things. We do whole words when they are little. We do phonics when they are 5. And then when they go to grade school and they are already reading, we do whole words for language, for vocabulary, to construct their vocabulary. And the other difference with whole language is that we do it very early. We do not wait until the age of 5 or 6, which, by the way, is a time when brain plasticity is already closing. Of course, you're able to learn, to keep learning, but never as much as you were able to learn when you were a little kid. So thank you so much for sharing, Natalia. And now I would like to introduce to us to Betty Beatriz Gomez, who is your mom, and she's sitting just there right beside you. And it's going to be difficult, Betty, because right now I would like for you to speak as a teacher and not as a mother. Try to do it if you can. So Beatriz is a certified English teacher, and she has 13 years of classroom experience. And during some of that time, she taught early reading to children ages 2 to 5. And as a mother, she has also applied the reading program with her kids at home. It's Natalia and the program she has. So Betty, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us to share.
It's so good to have you, Betty. And as I said, we know that you have experience both as a mother and as a teacher. Now, if I was talking to you as a teacher, can you tell us what is the criteria that we use to choose the words that we're going to teach our students? How do we decide which words to teach?
Okay, when we begin a reading program, we have to focus on the vocabulary words that the kids already know. And this is very important because when we show a reading card, we are going to use the visual pathway and the auditory pathway to send that information to the brain. And there, that information has to match with the information that the kid already has. So the kids know many words already just because we mothers, we usually talk to our kids all the time. We are always naming objects, places, people, actions. So even though sometimes we teach kids who do not produce words or phrases spontaneously because they are young to speak, they already know a lot of information. Actually, we would be surprised how many words they know already. Once that we have selected the words, we need to group them in semantic categories. As you have said before, you and Sonia, we are going to make these categories, for example, animals, items in the household, family members, but we have to look also for those meaningful words for the kids. For example, in the classroom, we have realized that the very first words that the kids learn very fast are their classmates' names. Why? Because they know these kids, they play with them, these are meaningful words for them. As we move on in the program, we are going to increase or add more words constantly, frequently. And we are going to show new words in context, but also we are going to consider what is interesting for our kids. For example, if we were talking about mammals during this week and we really see they enjoy this class, this topic, we are going to use those words to create a new category. We also suggest that we expose our kids to more sophisticated language. For example, if we are going to create a category with adjectives, instead of just showing big and small, we can add more words like huge or tiny, enormous, or gigantic. That way, we are also increasing vocabulary for our kids.
Thank you, Betty. Now, I know that there is a lot of concern among teachers with every new program, with every new fad that comes away in the world of education. Teachers are already burdened with lots of things to do. Now, how long does this take? Does it eat up your day? How difficult it is to implement in the classroom as a teacher?
It's really simple to add these new activities into your daily routine or schedule. And I would like to mention two main reasons why this is so easy. The first one is because we have great young students. Young kids are able to learn everything, anything so easily with no effort. And I would like to quote Glenn Doman when he said, young children can learn anything if we can teach them in a joyous, honest, and factual way. And the second reason is that they are not only capable of doing it, but they want to do it. Young children want to learn everything, and they want to learn now. They don't want to wait. So it's really easy that we teach anything because they are going to learn. And the kids don't have any idea in their minds about what is difficult or what is easy. They just want to learn. They don't want to learn. And some people might think that if we are teaching young children how to read, we are like stealing their childhood in a way, and it is not. Children prefer learning than playing. We adults, we keep them busy with toys, but the reality is that they want to learn.
Wonderful, Betty. Thank you so much. I just love what you said. And I would like to open the floor for questions now from the audience. I hope that you have some questions that you want to address to some of us, and you can tell us who you want to ask your question to, or if you don't have any preference, we just pop the question out there and see who wants to answer it. But meanwhile, while you write your questions in the chat, please write your questions in the chat so we can see them, your questions. You were saying that lots of people believe that we are kind of taking away their childhood. You know, that because we're teaching them to read at such an early age, we are doing something to them that it's terrible and damaging. And I see that Pepe is going like this with his head. Pepe, why don't you tell us what you are thinking?
Well, supporting the learning is a great adventure. We, as soon as the classes started, we set about following the methods to the letter. We paced the reading beats 3 times a day each day, and each week we carried out an evaluation by filling out a small report that it was given to the school. Showing him the beats took less than 1 or 2 minutes, but finding the right space of the day where the child and we had all the attention, that was the real challenge. At first, the number of words the child learned with the reading beats increased rapidly, but when we had been 2.5 months, slowly the child stopped recognizing many of the words that we knew he already knew. We thought that we were doing something wrong, but because he was also much slower to read correctly. One day, I was driving down in an avenue, and when I stopped at a traffic light, my child asked me, "Dad, what does a Pasco mean?" He pointed an advertisement for a Mexican cement brand, and then I realized that the boy was really reading, because he had gone from reading complete words to syllabic or phonetic reading, and he could no longer only read the words of the beats, but any word in that moment. He was 3.5 years old. From that moment, he was increasing his reading speed until he became too fastest of his grade. His teacher told us that by reading the beats in class they played, all had to win to Pepe. Pepe is the nickname. Bueno, Pepe is the nickname of my son, Jose Luis. The most tremendous thing is that from the beginning, his reading comprehension was very high. When he finished reading his book, he had always told us in great detail. One of the things we like about the Philadelphia method is that the child sees it as a game. He really has a lot of fun using beats and reading. For him, books are part of his favorite toys. Another thing is that at the school they have taught him to know what he feels. Pepe is very aware of his feelings. He tastes incredibly good when he feels sad, angry, happy, etc., and any feeling. When my son plays with children from another schools, it really makes a difference. Outside, everyone treats him like a child prodigy. Also, inside the school, he's a normal child, more like his other classmates. Its development has been very balanced in all areas of knowledge and development. He has a facility with languages. He has a great artistic sensitivity because he likes to draw, and he really makes incredibly drawings. He has a great perspective due to the dimensions, and apart from drawing, he likes to build three-dimensional models with whatever material he has at his fingertips. He likes to play the violin, and the guitar draws his attention. He likes swimming, and he likes taekwondo too. Obviously, he likes to read a lot. He loves electronics and robotics. 2 years ago, he won a state Lego robotic contest called Fifth Total Challenge. I believe that the best way to enhance the development and learning of child is through the example. The example draws. Okay.
Yes.
I have had to learn to play. I have had to play the violin. I studied astronomy because it was one of the subjects that my son was passionate about. I sing too. I had to take English classes too. If we had to have good result in the education of our children, we must be involved and participate daily supporting them. The method alone is incredible, but results are not achieved if we as parents do not do our part.
That's a powerful way to end your story, Jose Luis. Thank you so much. And we have many questions here. Sonia, I think that maybe you can answer this one. Diego Marquez is asking us how are we integrating today the digital environments to the curriculum, or how are we teaching right now during these times using technology? So maybe you can give us a short summary what we are doing on that regard.
Sure. Well, we're using Zoom, of course, as maybe everybody else, and we are just giving a couple time in the morning, like 15 minutes when we begin the classes, to do all the reading program since preschool to 9th grade, and that's how we are introducing it. So it's very simple for us as teachers, because it's like the moment that is very fun, to have fun with our kids, and it's a great way to start the morning with the program.
Thank you, Sonia. And we have another question here. Maybe I will take this one. Is what is the age limit to carry out the program? Well, actually, there's no age limit. At the beginning, we thought that these programs were only for little kids, ages 6 and younger. But we began doing the reading program with elementary school students and then with secondary school students, and even my kids in high school sometimes use it, because you can always improve your own fluency and vocabulary with the reading cards, with the reading words. Of course, it's very important that you get the meaning of the words. It's not just showing cards per se. It's actually part of the program that we know what these words mean. We are building vocabulary here, and we're building fluency because being exposed to the words so often, the brain learns to recognize those words automatically without having to decode them. And of course, that's much faster than actually decoding the word, and that is the way that efficient readers read. They begin to recognize more and more words over time. So there's really no age limit. Even adults could benefit from it. If your reading is not as good as you would like it to be, well, here's something that you can do. Now we have very little time left. We have here another question. Is it not confusing for the child to learn to read in their native language and other language at the same time? This is from Raquel. Anyone, Betty, would you like to take that one? And then make it short because we have to go to a wrap up. Go ahead, Betty. You are mute.
It's not difficult at all. Natalia was learning how to speak her native language, and at the same time she was doing the program in English too. We only need to make sure that the kids know the vocabulary words we are using already. Or if you are using the new language, you can do it like simultaneously. In one session, you can show the vocabulary words using pictures, only pictures. And then in another session during the day, you show only the cards. And the kids are language geniuses. They are going to match the information with no problem.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much. I mean, that was a very nice answer to your question. Now it's we're running out of time, of course, but I would like to make a summary of the most important things I believe that we spoke about today, and what you should do if you were to start a program like ours. What do you go from here? And I am going to share my screen very briefly, so it's going to be easier for you to see our takeaways here. So these are our takeaways. The first one, of course, is to start early, as we said, because research has shown that brain plasticity is at its fullest during the first years of life. And as Betty was saying, little children are primed for language, and reading is language. The second one will be to build fluency and vocabulary, and that's what we do actually with the program per se. In order to develop reading comprehension, children need to be able to recognize or decode words. Remember that we said that, and know what those words mean. So our program promotes both fluency and vocabulary because we explicitly teach vocabulary with a specific frequency, intensity, and duration. We start with the words, with whole words at ages 2 and 3. Then phonics at about 4 and 5. Phonics plus, we keep doing the reading words. And we keep an enriched vocabulary environment throughout elementary and secondary school, which is as far as we go, to 9th grade. Now, number 3, choose your words wisely. What words are you going to teach your students? For beginning readers, you need to focus on vocabulary they already know. You organize it in semantic categories, you introduce new words in context, and you use child-friendly definitions. You should also take their interests into account and make word categories of things that they like or that they are interested in. Okay, so parents, that will be the number 4. Remember that parents are the most important or most influential, the first and most influential educators for their own children. So bring parents into the equation. Don't think that we can do this without parents. They are of critical importance to be able to have success with any program, actually, not just this program, with any school program. We need to have parents on our side. We need to be working alongside parents. And of course, let parents know that it is very important for them to have a supportive environment, one that is warm, caring, and stimulating, and encourage shared book reading and using rich language interactions at home also, and from birth. Don't wait until kids get to school. Early, from birth, you can start speaking to your child in sophisticated language, and also in a very with a lot of music in your voice, which scientifics call parentese, a specific way of speaking to your child. And lastly, we would like to say that don't forget that there is also a movement, a motor component. So movement creates intelligence. And in too many classrooms around the world, children are expected to just sit through the day, passively absorbing huge amounts of information. And that's not really how learning happens. Sometimes we even don't want kids not to move, not to speak, not to do anything. And well, movement in fact feeds, grows, and organizes your brain. And of course, better brains allow for better learning. So we're getting to the end of our session, and I would like to thank you all for being here. And if you would like to have a copy of these slides and the points that we were sharing, we will be very happy to share those with you. I am going to share now again where the takeaways, and where you can see my social media accounts. And with the social media accounts, you go, for something I cannot share my screen. Okay, so you can share, you can follow me at Elisa Guerra Cruz, and this is at both Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And you can just send me a direct message asking for the materials and giving us an email that we can share the materials with you, and we will do it. So it's Elisa Guerra Cruz, ELISAGUERRACRUZ. I'm sorry that I was not able to share that. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this time with us. I hope that you continue enjoying World Education Week. This was just the first day. There are still much more to come. So take advantage of the opportunity to be with other schools and to learn about what they are doing, and hopefully be inspired. So thanks again, and thank you to our speakers for joining us today. Thank you again to Vicaspota and T4 Education for the opportunity to be here. So with that, we leave you. Bye.